Hello, welcome to the Cosmic Outpost. I'm Alex and I'm going to be taking you through today the recipe I used to create this rather nice image of Darius. We're going to need a few ingredients. First of all, we're going to do this lovely HDR sky from the CG channel. It was free. It's about 220 meg, so it does take a little bit to load. We also need a figure to stand in front of the map. So we're going to use the rather badass Darius 7. His default pose is pretty spectacular as it is, so we don't need to do too much work with him. We use his rather questionable cowboy outfit, which I picked up in a bundle somewhere. Can't see myself ever doing a western, but in this particular case it seemed to work quite well. So let's dive into Daz Studio. I haven't got the latest upgrade, this is just 4.9 whatever. So let's drop Darius into our scene. Let's bring him in. Okay, and we're going to give him his clothing of the cowboy entire outfit. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is sort out that hat. We're on the perspective camera. I'm just going to whiz it around to the side so we get a better idea. We've got this nice XYZ controller. If you have a look at your left hand, you can imagine your thumb is going to be the y-axis, your middle finger is going to be the x-axis, and your forefinger is going to be the z-axis. So if you hold that and you point it at the screen, you'll see which direction you're going to go. So all we need to do is roll this hat back a touch by selecting the rotation and drop it on his head so it doesn't look as goofy. So that should all roll around. Okay, so we've got Darius in our pose. We're going to select Darius again and come over to the posing shaping tab. We're going to pop him in one of the Gianni 7 hard as nail poses. So I think that one's the one I used last time. It's good, and we're going to give a bit of an expression, a bit of a side smile to the right. So if he watches, yeah, see that's as much expression Darius needs to give us. So let's drop a camera in. We're just banging the camera under the accept that camera control, roll it over so we're looking through the camera. Now that's quite good. What we need to bear in mind that we're going to have the background running from left to right down here. So if we look at these guidelines, we need that to be our horizon, and so we actually need to rotate Darius round slightly because the sun's coming behind him and we want lots of light coming down on this side, making it look very cool. So again, staying back to the posing and shaping, let's select Darius again. We're going to move him round on the y-axis just so his face is off in the distance. And there we go. So if we go back to our camera setup, we can just see he's there. Great, so we've got Darius standing roughly where we need him to be. You'll notice his boots aren't exactly spot on, but I'm not worried about foot poses at this point. So if we move Darius over to the right a touch. Now when you're doing composition, you've got to think of the rule of thirds. Have a Google on the internet for that, but essentially you divide your screen up into a grid of 9, and you either want to have your character on a left or the right side of the screen on one of those thirds. If you put them centrally, the image isn't as powerful. If you compose the image wrong and you have them on the left side and he's looking out to the left as well, you're thinking, oh, what's going to come up and behind him? So realistically you want to put your character across in the direction that you want the attention. So what are they looking at? That's the thing you want to create here. So we've got Darius in and we've got the camera set, and now it's time to look at the background. Under the Surfaces tab, we're going to look at the render settings because we're going to light this with a nice HDR map in the environment. First thing we need to do is select Draw Dome, so when we do our render everything's included. Let's have a look at the HDR map. Just going to browse to one I prepared earlier. So I tend to keep... Okay, so we select the HDR map, bring that in. That'll take a little while to come through, but in just a second that will be in. Let's say it's 220 meg, so it's allowed to take its time. So let's just run a quick NVIDIA preview render and see how we're doing with that. Okay, so we've got Darius standing in a field, and we can see the sun is off to the right in this particular rotation. The dome is a 360 degree sphere wrapping all the way around, and you can adjust this dome. I know, having done this picture before, I'm going to rotate the dome around to about 230 degrees, I think it is. That should put the sun on this left hand side shining on Darius. Okay, not too bad at all. So I think I need to bring it around a little bit more, but before I do that I'm going to position my camera. Jumping over to the camera tab then, so we can see we've got Darius in here, but we're quite far away, so we're going to move our camera right in, and we're going to position Darius up there. So let's see how that's looking on a preview. Great, okay, so we can see we're starting to get that sunshine coming around the side. Now you'll notice here we've still got our light on of our main camera. I always tend to forget about that one, so we'll come off of the texture shading, come back onto the texture shading, just so we can access our controls and do a little bit more work. Okay, so camera headlight, we're going to leave it on for the moment, but must remember to turn it off. Going to bring the camera in still closer, because we're going to want a nice close-up image of Darius. Now that's how far we've come in to Darius, and we can see that, well, that he's coming out of the top of the frame. We've got a nice background all over here, and we can't see it because we've come in really close to Darius. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the focal length of the camera. I come from the filmmaking background, and everything's dealt in millimeter lenses. 50 is a nice portrait standard lens. 65 is a bit zoomed in, and if we go to 50, you can see that just brings me out that fraction, which means I can get closer to Darius, because we need to have things off to the side here. So we've roughly got the position that we want Darius to be in. I think we probably need him around a little bit further, but let's just have a look at our background again, see how that's getting on. Okay, so we can see our framing. Adjust that down slightly. Great. Okay, we're starting to get a nice lot of light on Darius there. Now the trouble is, looking at that background, it's a bit overexposed for me. So what I'd usually do is either stop down the camera by reducing the iris size, but in this particular case we can have a look at the settings of the environment, because something I noticed. You come into the tone mapping of your HDR, you'll see this gamma setting over here. Now I was quite surprised when I saw that the gamma setting was set to 2.2. Usually the default is 1. So what this means is Daz is actually adding extra light into your HDR image that isn't needed, so it's blowing it out. So we do want a little bit of blowout, but what we want to do is set this to about 1.4, because we need a little bit of extra light. Okay, so now I can see that's coming through, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off to texture shaded again, just so it's not processing. Go back to our camera, and this time it's time to switch the camera off. Let's see what we can do with that. So surfaces and rendering. Okay, just going to have a look at our placement from the top view. Okay, so we've got Darius here, we've got a camera here, and we actually want to move that camera slightly. Okay, so with the camera off, we're just going to rotate Darius around slightly more, move him off, bring him in a fraction more, make sure that we're not losing the top of our frame. Probably are. Okay. Now something's happened to our camera. Can you see the horizon isn't level? So let's just jump back to our camera. Have our headlamp on just for the time being. And you can see, yeah, we've got a slight X rotate on our camera. And a bit of Y. So that's sorted that out. So surfaces and rendering. Let's see what that's looking like now. Okay, that's good. Now we haven't got quite the sunrise in there, so we're going to sneak the dome around just a little bit more. Take that back down. Now bring the dome round just a fraction, about, let's try 240 degrees. There we go. Okay, let's bring it back another couple of degrees in. 243. Great, okay then. Now we're just about there with positioning, but you can see Darius has got quite a bit of shade on himself. So let's just go back to texture shader because I do want to zoom out a fraction, because we want to get the reflection of the belt buckle for what we do next. So next up, we're going to add in some light to bring out this side of Darius. Now usually what we do, if we were on a film set, we bring in a reflector. So I've got under my light presets a little bit of a prop, Portrait Studio, and props is a reflector. Okay, so let's just jump into the top view of that. You see we've got the reflector there, which we want to move out, flip it around, take it out of the way, back it off a touch, jump into perspective view, because we don't want it to be seen by the camera. So we just rotate it up so we can see it's going to bounce a lot of light in. Okay, let's see how it's looking in our camera view. Okay, we can see the reflectors very much in the way. So what we want to do is bring it back a touch, but not too far away. If you have a look at the top view, we still need to keep it roughly in this same square as Darius, because the light given off by a reflector isn't great. So that's good news. We can see that the reflector is gone. What we can do though, just to bring it in as close as we can select this view to camera 1 and reflector disk, transform. You can see X, bring it in. Okay, so we just want to get it out of our edge of frame, but it's still as close as we can to Darius. Okay, so it's just a fraction out. So one more click on the posing and shaping. We can take, there we go, that should be enough. Okay, great. So the reflector's out of our scene now. So if we select the reflector, so we've selected the disk under the edit tabs. Now we'll have presets available to us. We're going to look for an iRay metal, nice and shiny. It's going to be metal and gold. You can see it's just gone gold there. So let's have a look and see what difference that's made to Darius. Okay, just check our camera. By the looks of things, we've still got our headlamp on, so let's switch that off. Go back to our surfaces and rendering. Try that again. Okay, we can see that that reflector's done pretty much nothing. There's plenty of HDR sun coming through in the image, but the physics in the Daz Studio just don't let that HDR sun reflect off that gold onto Darius. So that's not a problem, because what we can do is we can turn that mesh reflector prop into an emissive. So we select the dish here, but there's no presets available. What we have to do is go into the editor and actually select the specific area we want to use, and that's the reflector. Now when we go back to presets, we've got our shaders available. And we're actually going to choose, in this particular case, an emissive shader. Give it a double click, see it's changed there, and then we go into the editor of this surface, and we can crank up that illumination to, it's pretty bright sun, so let's try 700,000 and lock that in and see what that does for our scene. Whilst it's rendering, let's have a look at the emission temperature over here. It's set to 2900. That's quite a good low heat yellow sort of look. When you're looking at the color temperature, emission temperature, basically you've got to think of metal being heated up. Imagine a black piece of iron with a flame being applied to it from a blowtorch or something like that. Eventually it's going to start to glow a bit dull orange, and then it's going to get brighter orange, then it's going to go into the slightly whiter, and then it's going to get towards the blue side of things. Probably melt it by then. But there we go. You can see that this emissive mesh light has given us a nice eyes shade and the little bit of reflection down there. So in a moment I'll set that out to render. Of course, what we want to do is save our scene at this moment, if you haven't already done that. So we're going to do Cowboy 001. Because that's worked, we want to keep it like that. What I'm just going to show you is the two different types of lighting. This is a lovely mesh light which has given us this soft reflective glow all around Darius. What I'm going to do is I'm going to knock that off, switch off to the texture shader. I'm going to turn this luminance right back down to 0. So what I want to do is drop in a light just to see the difference. So we've got this floodlight right here. We can drop that in, select it, move it off, select and move it off. So it faces Darius. Okay, drop back to our perspective so we can raise this guy up. Posing shaping. Perspective. So we can raise this guy up. Floodlight. Movement. Raise. So if we go back to our surfaces and rendering, you see we've got some light there. Now because this is a area light, it doesn't actually let you control the specific emissions. It wants you to do it through the color temperatures and intensities there. What you need to do then is over in our surfaces tab, we need to select the floodlight's actual bulb. So if we select the light emission, and that gives us our emission controls. So we know that we want to have an emission temperature of about 2900, and we know we're going to need to pump it out at about 700,000. So let's see what difference that light makes. Okay, so you can see that's a very much stronger, harsher, brighter sort of light. What we can do is knock it down a touch to about 500,000. And we can probably stand and we can probably stand to move the light around a touch. Go to the top, move it down a touch. And let's see what that does to our image. Darius's hands are a little out of shape, but that's just a combination of the costume and the pose, so if you want to do, you can go in and finesse that out. So I'm going to go ahead and render that out. So we've got the first of all is the softer shadows, and then we've got the second harsher shadows. Compare the two together. I think I prefer the softer shadows, but as I say, it's really up to you. Hopefully you've found it easy to follow along. I look forward to seeing you on the next tutorial from the Cosmic Outpost.